Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, class. This is Professor Coyote, coming to you from the liquid sunshine-drenched valleys of Western Oregon. I'm welcoming you to my first of definitely many Let's Plays in the future, where we're going to focus on a lot of interesting games, many of them with a historical bent, kind of like Civilization or EU. And I'm going to go on a little bit more on this in a little bit, but let's enjoy the opening cinematic here for Civ 6. I'll probably comment a couple things, and then we'll start going on with what's going to be going on here in the future. You see here, potentially Italian explorers.
You're plotting a new course again, aren't you?
The currents before us are ever changing. We must adapt and press forward if we are to see our journey's end.
And how will we know when we get there?
So, funny to note here in the beginning that our Italian or Mediterranean explorers do have British and Irish accents. They're really milking that Sean Bean money for all they can get. And of course, our opening cinematic here is a nice sweeping trip through the ages, like many of them sort of go, like Rise of Nations, the Civ 5, and the like. Exploration and war. And you can hear in the background, you've got this just very pretty kind of sweeping opening music. I mean, it's not quite the level of Civ 5's Baba Yatu, the one that won like a bajillion awards and was toasted at the UN. But we definitely have this kind of choral, orchestral, John Williams kind of music that you just expect for these kind of sweeping through the ages kind of games. Here into World War II. And as we wrap up here to the space exploration age, it makes you kind of think, wow, this family, it's either immortal or they've got some really good genes to be able to look exactly like their ancestors did back in the age of exploration. But as we go on here, I would like to welcome you to Sid Meier's Civilization 6. We're going to be having some fun here on this Let's Play. We're going to go through the ages, go full campaign, and just, you know, kick the tires on this, see how much fun we can have. Now, I'd like to introduce myself a little bit. As I said, I am Professor Coyote. Professor being that I am actually a social studies teacher, and that's why I'm going to be taking a bit of a wheelhouse of historical games. You know, maybe some sweeping strategy kind, or maybe just some general historical bents, and just look at those. We're going to have some fun with some other kind of games, but at least for right now, I plan to have a Civ 6 game here. I'm going to do a Europa Universalis since the new DLC just came out. But let's start here on Civ 6. Now, a little bit of backstory on Civilization 6. This game came out October 21st, 2016. So that this year, if, you know, you're watching this recently or just a little bit ago. This is, of course, the brainchild of Sid Meier, who's a classic in the strategy and just general kind of historical strategy games. Probably coming up on its 30 years, I believe. Now, for a little context on Civ, a long time ago, a board game company called Avalon Hill, they're a division of Wizards of the Coast and owned by Hasbro now, but they were a big standalone game. They put out a bunch of big, hardcore kind of war game, historical simulation games. They put out a game called Civilization back in the late 70s, and it was expanded to Advanced Civilization in the early 80s. That was all about ancient empires, expanding their empires, going out for resources, fighting each other, and advancing their empires through a technology tree. And then lo and behold, Well, in the mid-'80s, Mr. Sid Meier here came out with a video game called Civilization. It was all about ancient empires, spreading their empires, going out, harvesting resources, and advancing their civilization through a technology tree. Now, of course, Mr. Meier has always said that he was never influenced by the Civilization board game. You mean there's a Civ board game? Well, but we all kind of just can tell from looking through some of these, and also some of off-the-record ideas. And then it was also kind of funny that as he put out this is now 6th iteration, back in the mid-2000s, they put out Civilization, the board game, based off the computer game, which is kind of funny in a sort of 2000s producers kind of way, you know, a movie based off the Broadway musical, based off the movie. But I digress. This is, of course, the 6th version of Civ. The 5th one was wildly successful. It had a few dozen DLCs for it. As I said in the opening cinematic, the song was up for a bajillion awards, toasted the UN, just really pretty, really. If I remember, it was actually the Lord's Prayer done in Swahili. But here we come here now, Civ 6, with my own history of Civilizations. Actually pretty long. I first started on Civ 2 for Windows. I believe it was Windows 95. Civ 2 was interesting in that it did go all the way through colonization to space. And in fact, the copy of Civ 2 I had was one of the later ones that included a actual campaign in space. That did sort of a lunar colony. This would, of course, be some of where Sid Meier branched out into Alpha Centauri, which I believe just got its 2nd or 3rd one up this recent year. So, what we're going to be doing is, as I said, I'm going to be going through a full campaign here, probably doing the Americans, because I find it's interesting that they switched out George Washington for Teddy Roosevelt. And, I mean, they did switch out quite a few of the leaders this year. And I'll probably do an Americans, because what the heck, Americentrism and all that. But what we're going to be doing in the next video is we're going to be starting on the tutorial here. Just not only to help myself brush up on Civ stuff, you know, between what they changed, but also to give you, the viewer, a chance to see some of the concepts. It'll take a little bit. I might end up even having to break the tutorial into 2, but we'll see. And concurrently with this Civ, I am probably either the next video or 2 going to start a EU, that's Europa Universalis 4 game, since their newest DLC, Rights of Man, came out earlier this month. I'll probably be running through, I don't know, I might end up doing an Ethiopia run on that, since I've tried that in the past, but now that they got rid of Westernization, I'll explain a little bit more into that game. We'll see how that goes. But for this series, I am going to be doing Civ 6. We're going to start off the tutorial, and that is where we're going to begin next video. So, I'm looking forward to that. I hope you're looking forward to it, and we'll all have a good time. So until next time, class, I will see you next class, and I hope you have a very wonderful day. Hope you had a great Halloween, and look forward to a wonderful November and December. See you then.